Now then, people, good afternoon and welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. I'm here with my new friend, JC from Fulhamish Podcast. Met on, was it Tuesday?
Aye, yeah.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? A week ago, after the William Hill shoot, which has been released and is on YouTube. Ignore my penalty, all right? It was pressurised. I felt, I crumbled. But yeah, I've got Jack with me, but we're gonna call him JC because it's cool. JC, how are you, my man? All good?
I'm good, Joe. I've had a nice day. It's glorious and sunny down here. A little bit too hot, but hey, we can we'll only work with it. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. It's hot up here as well, but like I say, down south, you get it much better, don't you?
It's sticky though down here. You know what it's like, the fog, the smog. Like it's kind of horrible and sticky. So yeah, it's a bit hotter, but I think I'd rather have your air if I'm honest.
Yeah, do you reckon? Love that. Listen, folks, we're here to talk Rodrigo Muniz, and of course, you'd have thought, based on this morning's information, that he was bound for Atalanta and that's it. But then we're hearing that that's been rejected. And just before we came live, as if by magic, Zinny Boswell and Sky Sports Lyle have said that Leeds United remain patient in the Muniz pursuit, despite Atalanta interest and Fulham's reluctance to sell. He remains our top striker target. But the 24-year-old, of course, is keen to explore the Atalanta move. And if Fulham sign a replacement, it could open the door for an exit. So that's what we brought JC on, and it's perfect that this just dropped just beforehand. First and foremost, are you in the market for a striker? Because you are the only club that haven't bought anyone yet, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we bought a backup goalkeeper, but okay. You're absolutely spot on. Like we're us and Palace just doing absolutely nothing by the looks of
things. Exactly right.
There's kind of pros and cons to that, right? Like we've kept basically the entire squad together from last year. There has been that kind of level of kind of keeping it and kind of running it back almost. We saw that take us very comfortably to safety last year. Look, I'm always wary that standing still is going backwards, right? Especially when you have, I think, going to be more competitive teams coming up this season. You guys and Sunderland in particular, I think, can be very interesting to see how that happens. I think they're a bit more boom and bust than you guys. And in terms of like, they could fly or they could absolutely bomb. I feel like you're going to be competitive, like whatever happens. So like when you kind of look at it in terms of what Fulham are trying to do now, Marco Silva wants a third striker through the door, right? Yeah. So, like, if Muniz was to leave, I think Fulham need two, because obviously there was Carlos Vinicius last year. I mean, the less said about that, the better. But when you kind of talk about it, kind of what Fulham are looking for in this angle, often he will go to a two up top. We've seen a little bit of five at the back, etc., right? So, like, I think it's interesting that he's basically the only sellable asset in this Fulham squad. Everyone is quite old. Silva likes an older team, etc. He's one of the very few players that Fulham could sell. And I do think if the price was right, that Fulham probably would sell him. I reckon
it's a huge markup as well, because you brought him in like when he was young, I believe, from Brazil. Is that right?
But also when we brought him in, he was like, Bambi on ice. Like we're watching him was frustrating. He went to Borough. He couldn't get a game in the Championship. And then suddenly he had this kind of makeover. Basically, it all came up good, right? A proper glow up in January, and he had this purple patch through the back end of one year, and then last year was a bit more hit and miss. Him and Raul rotated, but he's a really unique footballer, right? Like he's really, really weirdly shaped, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but like his legs and arms just kind of go everywhere. And when you kind of put it in terms of what he's good at, he's incredibly difficult to mark, because I don't think he knows what he's doing a lot of the time. And basically then defenders don't know what he's doing. He has got the potential to be excellent, I think, if he could learn how to control that. But I think if you're buying him for £50 million, which I think is what Fulham are going to demand, and I'll tell you why in a minute, like if you're going to pay that, you're paying for major potential rather than what he is right now. But I do think in terms of what the physicality that Leeds have brought in already this summer, then maybe you could see that working from that kind of angle. He's a kind of player who's awkward. He's angular. He can get in behind. He's not the fastest player in the world, but he's not slow. So he has a lot of angles to his game. He's just kind of not quite polished in any of those angles. But the reason I think Fulham will want 50 is because...
Which is a lot, isn't it? You'll admit that yourself.
Very clear. Like, it's a lot of money. And again, you're paying for that potential, right? Like it's not what he is right now. He is currently a decent Premier League striker. He is not a world beater, and £50 million for someone who's not a world beater is a lot of money, especially for clubs. Especially with us in the same bracket here. I'm not talking about size of club, but in terms of what we got,
we could go down, right? It's a huge layout for a team that could go down.
Exactly. So you're kind of looking at it from that perspective. Basically, Fulham have a 20% pay-on fee to Flamengo for we bought him the first time. So if he goes for 50, Fulham bring in 40. How much are you going to get in the market for 40 million these days? Right? Like that's the kind of thing that we're looking at. So I think it's interesting seeing it from that perspective. Atalanta is an interesting one in terms of they obviously have kind of made that move concrete, made the interest concrete. They've flown over, whatever. You get all of those elements. And I'm sure he does want to go play Champions League football. That's perfectly reasonable. Bergamo's a nice gaff. I'd quite like to live in Bergamo. If you give me these options, right? Like in terms of all these things. But equally, I think the thing is that they've just had a complete rebrand. Obviously, Gasparini's gone, who's the big member of that. Ivan Juric comes in, who failed at Southampton last year. They've
badly as well, like really badly.
Exactly. You look at that in terms of what you're looking for and, what they're doing. Retegi's gone. They've lost their top scorer. They have money in the bank from that deal with Saudi Arabia. So I think that that's where it's at. And look, you can kind of be like, it's ridiculous to pay £50 million for Muniz. And to be honest, I'd agree with you, right? I don't think he's a £50 million player. But my point is that kind of what Fulham are going to demand there in order to replace him is probably that amount because one, Fulham aren't particularly sharp in the market. And two, like you're looking at it and saying, what does 40 million get you these days in terms of bringing in a striker for that kind of price? So that's, I think, where Fulham are at with this deal.
And the facts are there's such a dearth of number 9s out there at the minute. So if you've got one that's wanted, and the thing is, it's even better for Fulham that you've got multiple clubs after his signature because that means you can, drive up the price. We saw that with Paixão when we tried to sign him, and he ends up going to Marseille. Yeah. In terms of incomings, I have kept a track of it. Obviously, I think you've been linked to Kevin from Shakhtar, Ricardo Pepi at PSV. Do any of them carry any weight, or is it just, we get a lot of BS news come out and you're like, there's no way we're after him,
I think the Kevin one has legs in terms of, but he's a winger rather than a striker, right? I say he's very much Fulham are deeply lacking on that left wing. Especially the Reece Nelson thing seems to have gone cold. Like I get those kind of moves and I understand why Fulham are looking in that area. I don't think that's a like for like. I don't think that, that would facilitate a departure if you want. So like if there was legs in the Pepe one, Fulham have a long-standing interest in him. He then was given the number 9 shirt. Luke de Jong's moved on from PSV to Porto. I think he's going to be the guy that sticks around there and has that guy. And I think also he's guaranteed minutes there this season ahead of a World Cup. Is this the time for him to move and try and make a gamble or move into the Premier League? Maybe next year. So, like, I don't think there's anything that. Mehdi Taremi is linked. Obviously, was it Porto?
He's linked to us as well. He's linked to bloody everybody. I don't buy it.
Yeah, I think that might be agent talk as much as anything else. But you're kind of looking at it from that perspective. Do I think he's a good player? Yeah. Do I think he's the answer for either of us? Probably not. Like, in terms of if you're having him as a backup striker, fair. Like, I think that's okay. But in terms of, what you're looking at as your number 9 to survive or, in our case, to try and kick on, I don't think that those two things are with each other. So, like, that's where I'm at with all of it. I think Fulham will sign. The thing with the Mehdi Taremi for us is that if he signed for us, I think he would come in as that sort of second, third choice striker. Yeah. And that maybe isn't where he wants to be, but that's probably where he is at his point in the career. Even if he came through the door, I'm not 100% sure that facilitates a Muniz exit. I think you'd be looking at a Pepe kind of player, maybe obviously not him, we've just talked about it, but that kind of profile of player in order to facilitate a departure.
Yeah, because I think as Jimenez got a year on his deal, if you stay, a year later, you need him to go back in the market again, aren't you? Because, these players aren't getting any younger, as you say. Do you know what's just come to my mind there as well while we were talking? Dan James, obviously you had Dan James on loan for a year, and he had a very, very good season and good 2 seasons in the Championship under Farker, and he does look to have improved him. But there are, rightly so, question marks over if he can do it in the Prem. We've been linked to a few right wingers. I just wanted to get your opinion on James while you're here. Do you think he has the capacity, or is it a case of he's just the smaller version of Adama Traore? I almost feel like they're Pokemon. You get him, then it was Alan St. Maximan, and then Traore. Do you know what I mean? Evolving.
Garnacho in that camp as well. I don't think he does anything apart from run quite fast. But like when you're looking at it from, you know, I like Stan James at Fulham, but he was a bit part player, right? Like, and that's the truth of it. Arguably, Manor Solomon was the more effective of the two, right? Like, so
he was great last year for us.
Exactly, and that's one where that seems to have gone quiet. I can't see him being part of the Tottenham squad this year, so I don't really know.
Would you take him back, having had him for that short period? I think he scored there. He scored against us in the FA Cup. I remember outside the box, banger.
I mean, look, I like him, but I think the Fulham probably have kind of moved on from that element of player. But I actually don't think it's a terrible idea. I think we're kind of in a weird place where we're not quite counter-attacking and we're not quite dominating either. We're sort of that mid. We're very middling in many ways in terms of the way that we actually operate and the way that we play football. So I'm not sure that he necessarily fits, especially as you say, with Adama already on the books. Like, is there a space for him? I like Dan James. I just wonder if, you know, in the Championship, we saw him being able to dominate on a physical level, and obviously not in terms of height and strength, but he just knock it around and off he'd go. And he's been able to do that at Championship level. It hasn't translated quite as much into the Premier League, but it really does depend. And look, I'm sure we'll talk about this a little bit later, but what are Leeds going to look like this year? Because that transition, right, from top of the Championship, domination, and that incredible defensive record that was built on basically not letting anyone have the ball anywhere near your goal is going to change, right? Like, we're not going to see that same kind of thing. Now, we've seen you bring in a load of, you know, big Land of the Giants jobs, who I think which I think is a really sensible strategy for
JC knows about Leeds. He was the only guy on the day that was able to say, like, you're bringing all these players in. I love it, mate. I love it.
Well, no, look, I love Anton Stack. I thought he did a brilliant job at Hoffenheim. I think he's a really good player. And I think that having that physicality to be able to actually challenge in the middle of the park gives you a base from which you can build. But if that means that Leeds are going to be a transitional side, right? If it means that they're going to play on the counter, score those goals. And right now, obviously, with the lack of attacking options, I'm sure that'll be remedied. I'm not kind of digging it out. I'm just saying, like, right now, is Dan James going to be a useful tool if you're playing like that? Yeah. Like, that's, I think, why he would be useful in that kind of system. But it really does depend if that's going to be the way, and can Farke adapt? We've seen him kind of struggle in the Premier League before, and that doesn't mean he's going to struggle again. This is a different build. 100%. But like, is he going to be able to shift his mentality to a slightly more defensive first approach? I think that's going to be the not necessarily where you stay up or not, but whether he's in charge or not by Christmas.
Yeah. No, I think you make a great point. And what we have seen, obviously, in pre-season is a switch from the 4-2-3-1 into a 4-3-3. Ampadu was the 6. And then, obviously, either side, we've had Tanaka or Stark, or Longstaff and Stark. So, and listen, they might still do it, but there seems to be a reluctance to buy an out-and-out 10. So I think we might go with a midfield 3, and hopefully bring in a 9 that can hold the ball up, that can press, that can bring others into play. And then we need a couple of wingers, truth be told, as well. But I do see a difference between that young, you know, exciting Norwich side, which they were in the Championship, to what we're getting now and what we're building now.
He's more mature.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think so. I think he's aware. Like, if he was to go all out guns blazing, we'll get walloped. You know, we will. So
almost anyone would, right? Like this is the what we learn from Championship clubs coming up. Like, the last time that 3 Championship clubs survived, actually, the last time any Championship club survived was the year that us, Forest, and Bournemouth came up. And we were all incredibly pragmatic that year. Right, like we kind of sat in a little bit deeper. We were really hard to play through. We had Fulham played with the number 10, and they played with the number 10. I do think this is interesting, and I don't think it would necessarily be the same for Leeds. But we played with Andreas Pereira in that 10, right? And all he basically did was he absolutely leveled players. He like ran around. He didn't really score. He just pressed. And we had Mitrovic up top, so it's slightly different because Mitrovic didn't move. But like, when you kind of looked at what Andreas did, he just basically pressed and chased and shut down avenues. Now, I don't know if this works, but I think that Brendan Aronson has some of those traits. I struggle with his output a little bit. I really want him to succeed, but I definitely kind of look at it and think, if you have a 10 in there, what do you need them to do? You need them to work. And that's why I think Aronson might be turned to at times in terms of where things are going.
Yeah, I love this. J-Dog, as you was talking, said that. And it is true. Listen, there is a place for him. He has been playing him on the right when he's either started in pre-season or come on late on, and he has done a job. He hasn't looked bad in pre-season, so I think he will. Yeah, you make a great point. I've consistently maintained that someone like Harrison, especially if we're 1-0 up late on, he's perfect. He might not start him, but he's perfect. Similarly, Jack Harrison, like this goes down like a lead balloon in the Leeds United fan base. A lot of them can't stand it. I'm not like that. I think he's a Premier League proven player that has, had 4 or 5 seasons up there now. Do you have any opinions on Jack Harrison? Because his output's poor under Dyche, but at Leeds he was decent, and it looks like he's staying now. And I just think when we were away in Germany, Daniel Farke in both pre-season games with no fans played him and was on him. I need you here, there, and everywhere, right? Then we play Ellen Road and we play in Ireland. He's not used at Ellen Road. He's all of a sudden got a knock. And then in Ireland, he comes on late on and gets a chorus of boos. I think Farke's managed that personally, and I think Harrison is going to have a bigger role to play in the Leeds side than people think, if I'm honest. So I just wanted to get your opinion on Harrison, because I think in terms of instructions from a manager, he's going to do everything that Farke asks him to do in terms of structurally shape, etc.
Yeah. And look, you do need players like that. And it doesn't always go down well with the fan base, right? Like Andreas is a bit like this for us, right? Marco Silva absolutely loves him, but there is so much frustration with his lack of output, with his lack of kind of ability to get the ball into the box. And look, do I think that Jack Harrison should be a starter for this Leeds side? No. Does he have a role to play? Maybe. Yeah. Right. And I think that's kind of a level of just experience and having players who've been in there and done it. And look, he's been, like, as much as there are levels to this, he was involved in relegation scraps, right? And look, with fingers crossed, and look, it might not play out this way. Maybe you're 12th by Christmas and everything's grand, but the truth be told, that like the probability is that it's going to be, if you survive or not is a different question, but there is going to be a scrap. And I think it's going to be a really interesting scrap this year with like 6 or 7 teams involved in it. I don't think it's going to be as clear cut as it has been from a couple of years. But in terms of, he's not brilliant, Jack Harrison, absolutely not. And is he the player that's going to be a game changer, that's going to make things happen? No. But is he going to get in there and he'll work and he'll do the things his manager asks of him? There's a role for those players in a squad that needs to have the depth and ability to just be able to deal with the difficult periods in the season when injuries come, etc., etc., etc.
100%. It's funny, man, because the chat's popping off with Harrison here as per. It's got to the point where, because I work with fanatics who provide our kits now. There's someone online who's, every time I mention something pro club, he's like, "This is club propaganda. You're in their pocket." I'm like, why am I? Just because I said Harrison's decent. But hey, it is what it is. It's funny though. This guy thinks I'm in the pocket. I mean, if they want to rub my hands with Silver, they can do for sure. You mentioned the drop. Of course, a lot of top 6 side that may not have a knowledge of the teams coming up. And why would they? I understand it. I'm not throwing shade there, but you yourself have a working knowledge of teams in and around the pyramids. You mentioned how it's not going to be as clean cut, and I agree with you. There's a lot of factors that I say this. The most teams in Europe there's ever been, that's going to have a hampering on Crystal Palace's league form, on Forest's league form, and other teams' league form, right? I think the fact that Man United and Spurs will improve immeasurably means that they'll take more points off teams down the bottom end, which closes that gap. And I actually think in terms of recruitment thus far, and the teams that have come up are stronger than the Leicester, Ipswich, and Southampton that we saw come up. So I actually think, and then if you throw in lack of business by some teams, Brentford have had arguably the worst window outside of Newcastle, in my opinion. So that's where my head's at. And I think we have a big chance of staying up. I just wanted to get your opinion on it, JC.
Yeah, no, I think so too. Like, I wouldn't completely disregard Fulham from this. I think we'll be all right. Okay. But like, as I don't put you
in there for what it's worth. I think you'll be all right.
No, but like as it stands right now, I think it would be unfair to not have us in that conversation. If you're going to put it in a European or a relegation battle, I think right now we're probably closer to the bottom than we are into that relegation risk, because we haven't moved forward, and that's okay. Like, that might change as it comes to the end of the window. There's going to be frustrations with that, but we've got the same squad as last year, a year older, basically. I think that's kind of fine. Like, Brentford, as you say, have been torn apart. My hunch is that Brentford are all right, and I hate saying that. I say gritted teeth. I say it through, with every ounce of me would love them to go down. But like, when you actually talk about it, like, I think that their defense is going to be sound as long as they hold on to Nathan Collins. I know there's slight Liverpool interest, but whether that kind of goes to it or not, like, I think the back four will be fine, and they've upgraded in goal link with Ian Kelleher. If they keep them out at that end, they'll probably have enough at the other. You know, Sharda came into form at the end of last year. We'll see what happens in terms of what's his
Is it
name?
Igor Thiago, the new
Thiago.
guy up top?
Yeah, came in from Brugge last year, didn't get a minute, and you know what he has to bring to the table. That's fine, right? Like, as in, but I think Wolves are in trouble. Like, obviously, you see Cunha depart. I like Fer Lopez as a player. I don't think he's ready to make that difference right now. Sarabia departs. They lose Ait Nouri. And I'm looking at it and saying, last year, obviously, the whole points and the pints thing is one of those things. And it was great. And I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed the manager going for a pint and whatever. I'm not 100% sure that stardust lasts another year. I don't think the squad is quite good enough. I think they'll be in the mix. I'll look at West Ham in pre-season and I'm like, what have you done to improve yourselves?
To be fair, you know that video that I did with like hot takes, Nicky, who's a West Ham fan, said he thinks they're gonna go down.
Yeah. I mean, look, unless they go and find some money from somewhere or spend, I'm intrigued to kind of see what happens on that one. Maybe they go out and buy a couple towards the end. We've seen them linked with a few players now, but like at the moment, I'd say they're in trouble. I would have said recently, until basically yesterday, that I thought Everton might be in the mix, but they're starting to move in the market now. And you see
Grealish and Dewsbury Hall are very good signings, man.
Very good signings, and they've got a little bit of creativity now. So like, there's that. You know, what happens to Palace if Gay and Eze leave? Like, especially with European football as well.
If that happens as well, you'd imagine Mateta's going, I want gone.
Yeah, my hunches Palace are fine, right? But like, I think right now it'd be nuts to exclude them from said conversation. So you're talking there at least, you know, about
Bournemouth, mate. You know, losing Kepa, Zabrani, Hulson, and Kirkes. It's a lot to replace.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they've upgraded in goal. I think Petrovic is a better keeper than Kepa, and I think Tuchel will be a good replacement, who's actually a little bit more defensively sound, I think, than Kirkes. So they'll be all right there. They're potentially going to bring, you know, Bafedi Diakate in from Lille, who's a good player, but you know, you never know how players adapt to the Premier League. I think that's going to be interesting. Although Ligue 1 tends to be a pretty good breeding ground for players going into England. They've got Senesi still in there. I think they'll do worse than last year. I'm not completely convinced, especially if they've kept the front line together, that they're going to be.
He's a great manager as well, isn't he? He is really a great manager. Yeah,
exactly. So like, when you kind of look at it from that perspective, I think they'll be all right. But I do worry for Wolves and West Ham in particular at the moment, but also Fulham and Brentford, I think, need to do business or they're going to be kind of dragged into it. And Palace, we get to see what that looks like towards the end of the window. But 100%. So I think, you know, add them to, look, I think Burnley are going to have too little. I don't rate Scott Parker, as you might imagine, as a Fulham fan. Whether he's learned, and look, there is a world where Scott Parker has learned and got better and understood the assignment. And actually, them being a defensively sound team last season probably does help them. But I think so much of that was due to CJ Egan-Riley and James Trafford that you're kind of looking at it and thinking, well, where do we go now? And look, have they replaced those players well? I'm not sure. They brought some interesting signings in, but
Broges. No, he's not the one, I don't think.
Well, as in, like, it's a good question. If you'd signed Armando Broja up top, or we'd signed Armando Broja, I'd be like,
exactly.
So I think that's probably it. And I think your recruitment's been really solid, although it needs attacking positions.
100%.
Like, absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. Yeah. Right now, you're in trouble. If you bring in,
if it stays as it is, mate, we go down because there isn't enough output. There isn't enough creation within the side. Yeah, we might be difficult to beat, but it'll be a terrible season, and we'll just, you know, we might win the odd game 1-0. And so genuinely, I'm all right for Everton. But then we got Arsenal, Newcastle, and it's like, so we need to win the Everton game. But by the end of the window, we need potentially 2 wingers, a 10, or someone in the 8 who's more creative than what we've got. And definitely a 9. Definitely a 9.
100%. And I think Sunderland, I said at the top, I think they're the most boom and bust. Like, if it all clicks for Sunderland with this incredibly young squad, and I think they're the most likely to stick with their manager as well.
Yes.
Like, there is a potential. I also think that Sunderland will not be under the same kind of pressure that Leeds are under. Like, if Sunderland go down, they're not going to have to sell half this squad. They'll just rebuild, come back up again. They're a young team. They've got talent in the bag and also money in the bank. So, like, you're looking at that from that perspective. I think they'll be able to go and have a go at it. But it was also kind of, when you put it from the other perspective on that, you're looking at it and thinking, well, you know, if it all doesn't go well, they're the most likely, I think, to finish 20th. So that's like, you know, they have the biggest spectrum, I think, in terms of where they're going.
Yeah, no, I agree. I really, really like Sunderland's business. I think Xhaka just knits that midfield together perfectly as well. So we'll see how they get on. A name that's loosely been linked, you'll be well aware of, and Helden Hell. I don't know how to say that name. It's a bit of a mouthful. But Mitrovic has been linked. Apparently, he's been told by, I think it's Inzaghi, you're not part of my plans. We brought in Darwin Núñez. I mean, he'd be great for a newly promoted side. I assume you'd probably take him back, would you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the way that Fulham play with that knockdowns, etc., was kind of built for Mitrovic, and we've been kind of working out how to play without him ever since. But I think that we could do without signing another player 30 plus, right? Like what the entire squad is that way. So if we're going to sign someone, I'd hope they'd be a little bit younger. But I think it'd be a really good fit at Leeds. And also, I think that you would love him as well. Like there is that element of just being a bastard there. Will you love
him at Leeds? Would be phenomenal. Like it would be the match made in heaven. I swear to God.
I know. I remember there was some needle back in the day, right? There wasn't there an injury?
Remember when he elbowed Ben White? Do you remember when he elbowed Ben White? Exactly. I remember it. He didn't see red for it. I was like, fuck. Yeah, man.
But that's Mitrovic in a nutshell. Look, is he going to frustrate you at times? Yeah. Is he like a bit of an idiot at times? Yeah. But in terms of presence and having someone in there that's going to make a difference, he's on a ludicrous amount of money in Saudi Arabia, but he wants out. So, like, does he want to come back to the Premier League? I'd suggest so. He loved it in England.
Do you know when you've earned that much money as well, you'd be willing to take a pay cut, right? He's earned generational wealth now.
I wonder if there's a loan. Like, that's the, like, I can't see Leeds buying Alexander Mitrovic. I just don't think that it works out. But I wonder if there's a loan that might work out here. That I still think it's unlikely from where he's at. But I do think that in terms of what you're looking for and someone who is just going to fit this, bring other players into play, I still think you'd need two wingers who are able to make a difference. But like in terms of making a statement as a signing, I mean, Alexander Mitrovic would be a hell of one.
There is an article doing the rounds in I think it's Saudi Arabian. For some reason, it won't translate for me either. Normally, I get the option, but someone took a screenshot. Oh, hang on. There we go. It has. It does say in there that, and I don't know how reliable it is, but it says one of the club's board sponsors has offered to pay the 30-year-old striker's substantial fee on his own. Also, according to Asian media, Al Hilal manager Inzaghi has already informed Mitrovic that the club no longer requires his services. Leeds, which has just returned to the Premier League, is the player's most likely destination. But
I'd buy the bit about Inzaghi for what it's worth. It doesn't the rest of the article, like, you know, that's an easy thing to throw out. Like, I do believe that Inzaghi's like, you don't fit the way I want to play. But I do think it would be interesting if he came back. And to be honest, I don't know how many other destinations there would be for him.
Would be to take him, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
I don't necessarily think Fulham would go back. That's not to completely rule it out, but like it wouldn't complete. Like it wouldn't. I'll be surprised if Fulham went back in. So maybe there's an option there.
Yeah, for sure. Before I do let you go, mate, I've just seen Justin video of Newcastle fans burning Isak's shirt. I know, like, what have you made to what's going on at the top end? I can't believe, to be honest, how well Man United's transfer window's gone so far. I'm quite surprised how bad Newcastle's has gone. If Liverpool get Isak, is it a case of they win the league now? City with Savinho, he's already it's mad, isn't it? How I think the season was that wild last year that the top six have said, this isn't happening again. We're spending and you know, we're going to get back to that monopoly.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do think that it's going to be one of those seasons where the top four goes screaming away from everyone else, right? Like, I think that Liverpool, Arsenal, City and Chelsea are going to be too strong in terms of just everyone else. I think there'll be a 10, 15 point gap between, you know, them and whoever comes in fifth, which my money right now is Brighton for its worth. But like you look at it, yeah, I think they're absolutely. Really? I think Hurts the second season. That changes if Baleba leaves. And look, I think the thing is, for me, you look at United, I'm like, have they sorted out the bit up top? Yeah, okay, fine. Have they sorted out the main issue? Not really. They get run through in the middle of the park time and time and time again. And until they sign a midfielder, I'm looking at it and thinking,
is it like Bruno and Casemiro or Bruno and
everyone is going to run through that. Like, as in, look, Ugarte is a good player, but he needs someone next to him who's able to progress the ball. Bruno is too lightweight in there to have, you know, in a two. Doesn't really work. They don't want to play him further forward. I don't really know what it is. So you're kind of looking at it and thinking, I'm still not scared of United. I'm still not putting them in the European conversation until they sign that midfielder. Now, if they do that, then we reset, right? But like right now, as I'm looking at it, I think it's going to be interesting. Liverpool's fun because I think that there could be a lot of 4-3 games. Like, I think they are going to imbalance themselves by what they're doing, but are they going to?
I wasn't overly impressed by Kirkez's performance in the chat. I know it's only one game. I know it's only one game.
I think he'll be fine, but like in terms of like, I still think they need another centre midfielder, like before they do anything else, because otherwise they're going to be really, really, really top heavy in terms of what they're doing. I think Arsenal feel the best balance, but they need a left winger, or everything is going to go down the right again.
100%.
And Chelsea are a bit all over the place, so who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Before you go, JC, then let's tell people where you're from. And listen, you've got a lot of love in the chat, mate. And having met you in person, you're a funny dude as well. And I was looking forward to you coming on. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me, Joe. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Where can people find you this season?
Well, I do Fulhamish, but like I can't imagine anyone really wants to listen to Fulham content. So I'm going to suggest that I have a kind of general football podcast called Ranks FC, which just kind of covers Premier League and then Europe as well. Nice. So would love you to come and have a look at that.
I'm going to download that as well, my man, because I love a football podcast. So
I appreciate it, Joe. Our Premier League preview is coming out tomorrow morning. So
okay. Will I still want to listen to it after listening to it?
I think you'll be all right. I think you'll be all right. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just make sure I've. Well, oh, hang on. My podcast started playing there. Sorry, mate. I'm just going to find it now. Ranks FC, yeah?
Yeah, that's me. So
there we go. Let's follow that, and then I'm going to paste it in the chat as well before you do go. How can I copy link? There we go, and post it in there. That's for Apple Podcasts. Obviously, be able to get it on. You'll be able to get it on it, well, everywhere, yeah? Is there a YouTube as well?
There is a YouTube, but it doesn't have any video. It's just literally the audio, and that's where it is. But thank you, lads. I really appreciate it, Joe.
No worries. It's been a pleasure. We'll get you on before the game as well, which I think it's only the fourth game, I think, isn't it?
I'll see you soon. I'll see you very much.
You will. Listen, folks, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you go listen to Ranks FC and Fulhamish as well. A lot of love for you in the chat. Big up Mally as well. Superb guest. Yes, he has been. Yes, he has. Endeared yourself to the fan base, mate. So we'll have you back.
Thanks, Jeff.
As for myself, I'm back at 8:30 with Wolfie, our weekly show, just chopping up the Premier League. So join us for that at 8:30. Because let's be honest, there's not going to be any more Leeds news. We've had nothing credible for days now. So yeah, I don't know what's happening. But listen, folks, thanks always for tuning in, and I'll see you later on tonight.